So I am here with Ask Yourself. I am here with ChrisHines. I am here with TimJongUn. Say something, Tim.
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
He's not going to say much, but he wants to introduce his new famous avatar. And I'm also here with PhilisophicalVegan. So the way that we're going to do it is we're going to have Chris is going to have the floor for about the first 30 minutes. Chris had done a live stream. Who was on your live stream with you, Chris?
Oh, God, I'm trying to remember now. I think Tim was on there, Liam Anthony. I don't know, Tim, who else was on the stream? Do you remember?
Well, there's a link to it. There's a link to it in the description if any of you guys want to check it out. And there's links to all these guys' channels in the description as well. So they did a live stream where it seemed like Chris actually understood my argument, my in-group moral communities argument a bit. The crux of the stream was really, okay, now that we understand it, we can take him down because we can figure out a way to get around it.
That's exactly how it was.
I know. So it's a hilarious stream if you want to listen to it. And the whole time I'm thinking, yes, finally they're talking about moral psychology. I've got involved in this vegan thing because I'm interested in moral psychology. I could care less about the veganism. But now I think many people don't even realize that when they say, you know, that's immoral, that they're just saying that's my morality. And all of us seem to be going around in these bubbles of morality. Jonathan Haidt calls it the moral matrix. Like we're all in separate matrices. And then when people try to communicate with one another, it's like they're speaking different languages and there's all this miscommunication going on. So I got to give it to you, Chris. I was super impressed that you seem to understand my argument, even though it was a little bit motivated reasoning in that you were wanting to use it to debunk my argument. But that's good. At least we're talking about the same thing now. So what
okay, cool.
Where do you want to go? It's the floor is yours.
Well, I mean, I guess should we just explain what my argument against, well, what it was? I said, I think I'll probably be the best.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. So sum up what you were saying in the stream.
Okay, so what you were saying is we got two groups. Say, you know, you're saying using in-group though. The other group has also got their in-group though. But if they kill you, you're saying that that is not contradictory of your group's morality, but of their group's morality. Correct?
That is exactly right.
Okay, cool. Right. So what
I'd also point out that's just not a true statement, but I'm going to try to hold my tongue here because
no, that's cool.
Hey, if you want to grab, hey, ask yourself if you want to grab a pencil and paper and just take notes. You will have the floor in 30 minutes, and you're welcome to just take whatever arguments are thrown out down.
Yeah, I just want it to be clear to the audience sitting here listening when I'm sitting here passively not saying anything. That's by request of these guys. I do think that it's profoundly wrong to suggest that it's not a contradiction to simultaneously use and reject the same justification for murder.
We're gonna get into that. So go ahead, Chris.
Okay, yeah. I mean, what I'd firstly like to say is I am certainly not any sort of philosopher or anything like that.
Oh, me neither. So
just to let everyone know, I've only kind of got into this whole kind of logical argumentation thing fairly recently, and thanks to Isaac, he's kind of got me on this kind of path. So I could be terribly wrong with things. So definitely don't take everything I say. You know.
Well, I'm here to tell you if you're right with my argument. So that
that's cool. Well, you're agreeing with that. So that's cool. We'll say we got an agreement there.
So
basically,
go ahead.
So what we know. Yeah, so what we need to do now is basically we need to chuck you out of your own in-group.
Right.
And work out that part, really, to see whether there is contradictions within your own group. So you said that animals aren't in your group. Why is that?
And I got in a Twitter discussion over DMs with a vegan as well. And he was giving me charts and stuff and saying, is this right? Is this right? And he did a great job of showing animals. Well, he had the arrows going the wrong way. He was saying we're throwing animals out of the in-group, and I'm saying no, the animals were never in the in-group.
Yeah, which I'm cool with. So yeah, why weren't they ever in it? What's the reasoning?
Because humans function as a eusocial species. We function like bees function. Like our society is a superorganism the same way a beehive is a superorganism. So us as individuals, a lot of times we feel like we're separate, and we do separate more than a bee separates, obviously. But without society, we're as helpless as a bee without a beehive. So letting bees do, well, I don't know that bees let any other organisms in. I know that ants let other organisms in to kind of use in the same way that we use animals. But just because they're letting those organisms into their ant nest doesn't mean that those organisms like belong there. They're not throwing the organisms out, and we're doing the same thing. We're selecting animals that we want to include because they aid us in creating this superorganism we call society.
Okay. Well, just say your conscious then was thrown into another creature that wasn't a human, which then isn't in your in-group. Would you then accept being killed?
I think
you're now
well, you got close in the stream because you were saying chucked out of your own in-group. And I mentioned this in my very first video. I said, if criminals are chucked out of the in-group all the time, and they don't like being chucked out of the in-group, but when they commit crimes against society, we throw them out of the group and put them to death in many cases. If you're in Texas, you're going to the electric chair.
That's all fine, but I'm more interested in what means
the animals
cannot. I'm more interested in what can't be in your in-group and the reasoning they can't be, because there has to be some sort of justification.
There is nothing that can't be in the in-group. And this is that you guys are putting an axiom on your vegan morality that is whatever you do can't be arbitrary. That seems to be an axiom of vegan morality, and it's not an axiom of my morality, and it's generally not an axiom of other moralities. The reason I used the bacon thing in the ISIS morality was because I was saying, listen, sometimes there's things that are arbitrary that just, get picked for who knows what reason. Like right now in the social justice versus anti-feminist crowd, like they on their side have this arbitrary thing that you can't talk to the enemy, which, why is that there? Like could be said it's arbitrary. So the eating bacon thing is definitely arbitrary.
If we chucked you out for arbitrary reason, you're not going to accept it.
That is correct. Yes, that is correct. But letting someone in for an arbitrary reason is a lot different. Like think about it if you're joining a club, right? Kicking somebody out of a club for an arbitrary reason is worse than letting someone in for an arbitrary reason, right? If you let someone in because you know them at work, that's fine. But if you kick them out because you know them at work, that's
why wouldn't you let the animals in then?
Well, first of all, they're food. So, like,
okay, well, humans could be food.
Yes, but humans are in the web.
So we can't use food. Food could come from numerous sources. They're not the only source of food we have.
May I say something?
Sure, go ahead.
Sure.
Animals aren't a source of food for us today. We feed the animals food. So, I mean, that in itself is not a reason today. I mean, in the past, it has been, because animals in hundreds of years past, when we didn't have the agricultural technology, when we weren't able to, say, get B12 from bacteria and, eat it in delicious cherry-flavored pills, then animals were a source of food. They were a source of nutrition. So there was a reason to keep them out. Today, there doesn't seem to be.
The reason to keep them out is because we don't want, like, we would feel horrible if we killed a pet for food. Like, we would feel horrible if we killed another human being for food. We would feel horrible if we killed a relative for food. So
you should feel horrible for killing other animals.
But that's a different argument. That's a totally different argument.
Well, they're exactly the same as your dog. They're the same as your dog.
You do.
They're the same as your cat.
You do feel horrible, but I don't feel horrible. And many other people don't feel horrible.
It doesn't mean just because you don't feel horrible, it doesn't mean the act in itself isn't horrible.
Well, that's a question of meta-ethics. Chris, you're kind of asking him why they aren't in the in-group, whereas we should be asking questions of should. Why shouldn't they? Why should they be? And that's a question of meta-ethics.
Well, I've answered why they shouldn't be. I've answered why they shouldn't be already.
Well, you've answered that you accept arbitrary reasons. Why letting somebody in the in-group or kicking somebody out, there's there's not really any argument you could make to say that those are fundamentally different. I mean, say you let somebody in your club who nobody else likes, this really stinky guy, that could be a lot worse than just kicking somebody out that nobody likes. I mean, it depends on your perspective on that.
Sure.
So what I'm saying is that the bottom line is that we disagree on whether ethical principles can be arbitrary or not. You think they can be arbitrary, that's why you are a relativist or subjectivist, and we say that no, they can't be arbitrary. They need to be consistent.
Well, don't speak for me. Don't speak for me.
I'm speaking for vegans who are logically consistent.
No, hey, don't. Hey, not yet. Not yet. Let's wait. Let's go. Let's at least go 30 minutes.
Yeah, but he spoke on my behalf, so I'm just being clear. No,
I'm talking to him. Ask yourself. He's
okay. Well, while I'm being spoken for, I will comment. So,
no.
Go on.
Okay. Assume everything I'm saying does not apply to Ask Yourself. I'm just speaking for rational consequentialist vegans.
You're implying
you're
right. Okay. So anyway, so let me clarify on my arbitrary statement a bit. Actually, I lost my train of thought in the melee there. So
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead with what you're saying. I remember now. Okay, the arbitrary thing. It's very, and I'm speaking descriptively here. Arbitrary things. Let me finish here. Arbitrary things can help moral communities form, and they've done studies where different communes. They've actually done studies. I forget the book that it's in. I think it's Robert Putnam's book, where he looks at a variety of different communes, and those communes and the length of life those communes lasted, and found that the communes that tried to use rational reasoning for every different rule that they have inside the commune didn't last near as long as the communes that had arbitrary rules that forced people to give up things like bacon or wearing their shoes in the house. Because the longer that they lived in that community, like doing these unrational things together, it just knitted that community together tighter, and they didn't want to leave. So when I'm talking about things in terms of rules, sometimes rules make a community work better that we don't necessarily understand those rules from outside that community because they seem arbitrary to us, but they have value that we're not necessarily seeing from outside. So
okay, can I address that?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
All right, well, what you're talking about is a cult. I mean, when you have arbitrary rules, you need some kind of authority to enforce those. And
what is the difference between a cult and a nation or the church, or like humans form communities? Is every single community, is a bowling league a cult?
No, there are differences between why people are forming communities. People can form communities around a particular authoritarian ideology, particularly if it has like a charismatic.
Good. Hey, speak up, Tim. Sorry, we're finish your thought, but we need to give Chris back the floor. We're taking Chris's time.
Okay, so sorry about that, Chris.
No, cool.
So a cult compared to a nation, the reason these communities break down is because they are within nations. The nation is actually providing some kind of utility. A cult doesn't necessarily build on that. It provides people a sense of meaning.
No utility for you. You're not in the cult. Well, wait.
You're not. You're in the cult. The utility provides its emotional utility.
You're in a cult. You're in a cult. You're in the vegan cult, but you don't know it. So let's go back to.
I'm not. Ask Yourself might be, but I'm not.
Let's go back to Chris. Stop taking snipes at Ask Yourself too.
Okay, sorry.
I haven't even been listening, to be honest.
Oh, good. Come back. Go get yourself a beer, Isaac, and come back in 15 minutes.
I'm just waiting to murk this Philo guy, so whenever you're ready.
We're excited about that. Trust me. We're all waiting. Come on, Chris.
Yeah,
okay. Right. Let's just think about this kind of realistically, okay? Let's talk about bacon, for example. How is having bacon in your community in any way beneficial? And How are you justifying the fact that pigs are shoved in gas chambers, having their nuts chopped off, tail docked, teeth clipped? How are you justifying this by this argument for bacon, which is easily replaceable and not essential?
Well, I just don't think. I just don't think about it much, to be honest with you. I mean, what do you want?
Not thinking about it much is not an argument, is it?
It is actually.
Going around killing people, going, well, I'm not thinking about it much, so it's fine.
It's different with people, though. You're talking about.
I'm talking about what happens. Yeah. This is what happens. This is real life. This is something that we don't seem to be bringing up in these debates. You know, dairy cows are getting fists in their vaginas.
Appeal to emotion. Yeah. Appeal to
emotion.
Fully
appeal to emotion. I'm happy to admit this. Appeal to emotion. But I'm just stating the facts. This is what happens. You know, we're taking children away from them. How does this justify, you know, being outside of the group or not being in the group because you want milk, because you want a replacement, because you want to drink, because you can't drink almond milk or soy milk? How is this ethical? Like, we can go on the logic path all the time, but I want to know, how is that ethical? We can stop doing it. It's easy. Pick up something else off the shelf. That's it. That's the easy way to do it.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Explain how these animals are outside of your group purely because you want milk and you can't be bothered to pick up soy milk.
I enjoy half and half. I enjoy ice cream, and the suffering of cows. I don't think about it.
You enjoy the suffering of cows, did you say?
I enjoy the products that come from cows, and the suffering doesn't bother me.
Is taste more important than life?
Yeah, in some cases.
No.
Wait.
No cases.
For me, the taste is more important. For me, the taste is more important than the life of the cow. Yes.
Really? So
the cow is a product for me.
So if you have a child, and if your child tastes of chocolate, I'm okay to stab it and eat it because it tastes nice. That's cool.
No,
you see what I mean? It's stupid. You can't use
obviously.
Taste. You can't use taste. Taste is not a valid excuse to stab an animal to death or to do anything.
For you, inside your community.
For anybody, for any rational person.
Okay.
It's a ridiculous argument. Come on, you would not accept that. It's a stupid argument.
My children.
This is kind of what we avoid.
Children are not human beings, and it's. I know that it offends people's sensibility when you. I messed up. Cattle are not human beings. Children are not cattle. Children are not livestock. There.
Nope.
It's debatable whether children are human beings too.
Cows are not livestock either. They're living beings that have been now called livestock.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't just get down to the gist of these things. There's a lot of screwed up stuff that's being justified for really, really stupid reasons. Okay, there is no reason to be doing these things when we have alternatives. Do you not think the best thing for all of us, for the best thing of the well-being of the planet, for the well-being of the animals, the environment, that we move towards
what is different?
A more
kind
world.
What is different from what you're doing right now to me than some social conservatives shaming gay people?
How am I shaming gay people? I'm not shaming. I'm just saying the facts.
Well,
telling you what happened.
They would say gay people.
If telling you the facts is shaming you, you should really think about why it's shaming you. I'm only telling you how food is produced. I'm not dropping any,
But you're saying that I shouldn't. You're saying you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be homosexual. You shouldn't have homosexual sex. You shouldn't be able to get married. That's bad for society. It's bad for society it's bad for society when homosexuals have sex. That's gross. It's evil. Are you kidding me?
Be racist. Or you shouldn't be homophobic. That's what I'm saying.
Well, what is different? What is different from the shaming tactic that you're using than that shaming tactic? What is different? Tell me. What is the difference?
Because I'm saying to someone, what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah, what homos are doing is wrong. Homos shouldn't have sex with one another, okay?
According to
that is wrong. Homos have sex with each other. Who's the victim?
Yeah.
Society is the victim.
Really? So society suffers every time gay men have sex?
It degrades human beings. I want you to know this is not my argument. This is the argument that many social conservatives have, okay? They have their take on morality. You have your take on morality. All you're doing here is you're trying to foist your take on morality on me through shaming. And I'm not going to be shamed. I'm not going to be shamed into not enjoying my ice cream or my milk or my steak, okay? We subjugate these animals to our will, and I'm proud of that.
Okay, so you're saying killing all these animals is completely amoral, is not a moral issue, no?
No, not at all. Not at all.
So I can get a cow and
when gay people want to have sex, when gay people want to get married, that is not a moral issue at all either.
Adam, do you think it's wrong for you to shame the people who are shaming the people for being gay? Like, in other words, the Christians who
yeah, I think it's
Okay, so that's what we're doing. We're on that side. You're discriminating against the animals, and we're shaming you for your discrimination.
How am I discriminating against the animals?
Because you're picking the taste of their flesh or their secretions over their actual life.
Okay.
You know, it's ridiculous. I mean, like,
I'm shaming. Are you saying I'm shaming animals? I don't think I'm shaming animals, but
no, you're not shaming animals, but you're picking their, the taste of
Angel G is saying I sound like a psychopath, but
no, let me clarify what I was saying.
Psychopaths have no empathy for other human beings, which I've seen.
Well,
I have plenty.
I
have plenty of empathy for other human beings.
The first step to psychopathy is often the mistreatment of animals. So, but I just want to clarify what I was trying to say, because I kind of had marbles in my mouth when I said it. When someone discriminates against homosexuals, do you think you have a right to shame them for discriminating against homosexuals?
I have a right to try to convince them. That's the same thing. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So you're discriminating against animals. So we have a right to try to convince you to not discriminate against animals.
Right. I have the advantage on my side, though, that last I checked, homosexuals were human beings.
Right.
So, well, they can fight with me. The animals are going to have a hard time fighting with you, but
no, it's, like,
we're at a stalemate here, and this is why it's so not really interesting.
Why is it a stalemate? Why is it a stalemate? Because the thing is, right, I'm not the philosopher here. I'm not the person who follows the logic. I'm just, in the end,
you care more than me. That's where the stalemate is.
The reason I care, right? I go to slaughterhouses. I see these animals. I go to factory farms. I see these animals.
Right.
I see them suffering. Okay. I know what they're going through, and I know that it's completely uncalled for, and that we're making these decisions purely because we like the taste of their flesh. And that is ridiculous. I'm not saying veganism is perfect, and I'll never claim it's perfect, because it isn't. And I'm pretty sure that beyond veganism, there is an even better solution, which we will get to as it comes. But at the moment, veganism seems like the most thought out, like, structured thing that we can move to start coming to a better world, which is going to help, like I said, in, our own health, the environment. It's going to help the animals. And it's also not going to, completely destroy kind of culture in any way either. We can still have the Christmas turkey, you just have it, a vegan version or anything like that. It's a route to a kinder world. I don't see how continuing to eat animals is doing anything to increase our well-being, or is ever going to increase our well-being further than we are now. Surely the best thing we should be doing for this planet and for us is to increase well-being, and just sticking to eating meat is not doing it.
Human well-being.
Yeah, or human well-being as well. Do you think humans are benefiting from killing animals, really?
Yes.
In what way?
They're tasty.
Because they're tasty. Okay. What about all the heart disease they're getting? What about all the diabetes they're getting? What about the fact that, we're literally bringing up society? You think about the violence involved in actually slaughtering animals. People who work in slaughterhouses have, higher chances of going out and committing domestic violence and rape and stuff. How is this benefiting humans?
So there's this thing that they do in business. It's called a cost-benefit analysis. So what you're saying, I don't deny. I don't deny that there is downsides, right? But if it's 60% up and 40% down, let's take the 60% up. I'm just a pragmatist.
I mean, tell me how going vegan is going to be a detriment to everyone. How is it going to be a detriment? Because, like I said, we've got all the same foods. All the same foods they're all there. You want crispy prawns? We got crispy prawns. You want doner kebab meat? We got doner kebab meat. Okay, all of them are there.
Are you talking mock meats?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, we all the foods are there. So there's no issue there. So what is it that's going to become detrimental? How are humans going to, except for taste, and taste isn't an argument.
Yeah, can you turn your mic up? Let's. I don't know what to tell you, Chris. I mean, I'm not biting.
I mean,
yeah,
you might not.
For a moment.
What you're trying to do is you're trying to like guilt me, and it's really all it's doing is making me. I mean, I'm to the point where I'm ready to go hunting, man. I'm ready to go out and kill things. Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that as much as you want. All I'm doing is saying the facts. That's all I'm doing.
I know, but
exactly.
Just,
and if the facts,
it's your cult, man. It's not my cult. I didn't join the cult. I don't want in the cult. Okay, I subscribe to FriendEd morality. Okay, I don't subscribe to vegan morality.
You might not subscribe to vegan morality, but I'm just telling you how it is. This is how it is. Animals are getting screwed over. It can't be denied. You can't say if you say animals are amoral, then that means we can do anything we want to them. And are you going to go that route? Are you going to be like Destiny? Are we going to start throwing, getting like torturing animals and stuff because they're amoral now? Of course not.
First of all,
even you've got limits.
First of all, we try to we're not torturing them for fun. Okay, we're torturing them out of necessity.
Okay, well, do you need meat to survive?
It's none of your business.
Simple question. Do you need meat to survive? A simple question.
It's none of your business.
What do you mean it's none of my business? It's just a simple question. Because if you don't need meat to survive, it's needless.
Yeah. Let's move on.
You can't just move on.
Well, yeah, totally. You're just trying to guilt trip me, man. And it's like bullshit. It really is bullshit.
No, you're a simple question.
Everything that you're saying sounds to me like the Jehovah's Witnesses on my doorstep. You're going to die. You're going to burn in hell. It's totally unethical. You're going to burn in hell. Aren't you worried about the afterlife? Do you want all your family to burn in hell? No, what you're talking is nonsense to me.
No,
really?
Like it's total
the difference
nonsense
with what Chris is doing and what you're saying with the comparison to Jehovah's Witnesses is the Jehovah's Witnesses trying to convince you that you're the victim, that you will be the victim of your own actions. What we're trying to show you, to demonstrate you with the reality of the industry, is that the animals are victims. It's not a fair analogy.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just standing up for the animals. I got nothing to gain from this. Like I said, and you can say a lot of stuff I say is appeal to emotion. It's because I've got a lot of emotion because I've seen these animals. A lot of people haven't. I've seen the conditions they're in and stuff, and I know that we could easily just not do it to them. It's that simple. There is no big argument that means that those pigs need to be in a factory farm, unless you want to give me that excuse. And I'm not seeing a decent one.
That's why you're a vegan.
Exactly. That's exactly why I'm a vegan.
Well, me and the rest of the world don't see it as an excuse.
You might not see it as an excuse, but you can't. The thing is, you have no argument against it. You're just saying, "Well, I'm just going to do it anyway." That's not an excuse. You got to say you're just going to get on with it. I don't care. I mean, you can say I don't care, but it doesn't make you particularly moral to just not care.
I care. I don't care as much as you, okay? There are plenty of times in life when having too much caring is bad for you.
And how is this bad for me? Just out of interest.
Let's move on. Let's move on. We're not communicating. You're talking at me. We're not having a conversation. It's been 30 minutes. It's been 30 minutes. Let's move on. Philosophical Vegan wanted to take the floor with meta ethics.
I could just address the cost benefit analysis thing really quickly because you two are kind of talking past each other. When you add up the costs, I mean, Chris is adding up, animal suffering, and you don't care about that as much. And
it's zero. Animal suffering.
Fuck
the animals.
Can Philosophical turn his mic up?
Let me see.
You're just a lot quieter than us.
Am I really quiet for everybody?
I'm having a hard time.
Give me
hearing
1
you.
second too. All right.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Am I louder now?
It's hard to tell when you're not speaking relative to people, but I can hear you right now.
Okay. I just wanted to address the cost-benefit thing really quickly because people can tend to talk past each other when they have either different information or they value things differently.
We're listening.
Okay.
Am I loud enough? Am I loud enough?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, you're good. I've turned my volume up, so I don't even know. It's all kind of loud now.
Okay, thanks. So you two seem to be talking past each other, and in order to address the value dissonance, you really do have to talk about meta-ethics. You have to explain like why it is a problem that animals are suffering. But you can completely avoid that. I mean, you can make environmental arguments that are very strong. But when you do that, you have to say, okay, like eating a hamburger or something that's damaging to the environment, it's damaging to other human beings. But so would be, say, a joyride in a Hummer. So you have to kind of compare those things and say, look, these are equally damaging, say, in environmental terms, and you can't moralize one but not moralize the other. I think sometimes vegans aren't very careful to make that clarification, so it sounds like we're being arbitrary. But when we're making certain arguments, we're not necessarily doing it.
Okay.
And I wanted to come back to what you said about the cults using arbitrary rules. Are you saying that that's prescriptively good, that it's holding these societies together? Because, I mean, we have everything from, like, peaceful, whatever, hippie Raelians to, like, Heaven's Gate, where they're, killing themselves, or there are all sorts of different cults.
First of all, I'm talking about communities. There are overlapping communities. Like, we're all in a nation, which is a community. We're all in a state, which is a community. We're all in a city, which is a community. We're all in a, these communities are overlapping. So
right, but
all the way down to the Heaven's Gate, right? But social capital is a thing that is valuable in society. It's when you trust people, when you can interact with them and not, crime is low. There's all these things that social capital does for society. So, like, destroying social capital willy-nilly is what I'm worried about.
Yeah, but you're not necessarily doing that when you're saying arbitrary arguments aren't good. The reason
arbitrary arguments can create social capital, though.
But do they necessarily? The only evidence you provided is with respect to these small communities. These small communities within larger communities that if they don't provide enough utility, of course they break down because people just diffuse into the overall nation.
Sure.
I mean, our nations are in competition with each other. People can move between them, and those nations offering better perks people can move to if they meet the requirements to do that.
Definitely, yes.
The reason that it's a bad argument, that arbitrary values are a bad argument, is because it is talking about cults, and it is talking about these minuscule communities within larger ones where people have options to diffuse out into these larger communities. It's not really supporting anything.
To me, in my opinion, cult is just a religion that you're not in.
That's not how cult is defined, though.
Okay.
A cult is very specifically.
I'm telling you the way I'm defining it.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's kind of like Ask Yourself using murder, and that's not really how it's defined. So you're giving
you're the one that used cult. I didn't use cult.
Hey, whoa. When I say murder, that word fully applies to animals. It's in the dictionary.
Oh, okay. Can I finish?
Well, no, concede the point. It's in the dictionary.
There's multiple definitions, correct?
Yeah,
Ask yourself.
Of course, that's not useful.
Of course.
Look,
and
wait,
whoa, 1 sec. But the definition of murder, there are definitions that apply to animals. Correct?
Ask yourself. I concede the point that there are multiple definitions of murder.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to whoever's talking. Is it Tim right now?
It's philosophical vegan, but I'm just conceding to you because.
I thought that was Tim. Okay, wait. Philosophical, concede on that. There's multiple definitions of murder, obviously, and some of them apply to animals.
Right, and
there are multiple definitions of murder. There are multiple definitions of cult. There are also multiple.
Okay, whoa! Hey, no, don't sidestep it like that. Is there a definition of murder? Wait! Is there a definition of murder that applies to animals?
Look, you're contradicting yourself.
No, hey! Don't sidestep. Answer the question. Do certain definitions apply to animals? Yes or no?
Certain definitions of cult do too. I mean, veganism.
Whoa, guy. This is why I don't like people like this. No. Whoa. Answer the question.
No.
Yes or no?
That's not what we're talking about right now. I'm trying to.
Yeah, but you took a jab at me saying that I'm using a word incorrectly. Wait, and I'm pointing out that. Hey, please stop. Thank you.
My analogy was that
don't take weird shots at me using the wait. So don't take weird shots at me using the word wrong. It's in the dictionary. You just acknowledged it. It is a proper use of the term.
Hey, hold on. Ask yourself. You realize that he is making a point that you and I are miscommunicating over the word murder, though. I am using a different definition than you are using.
I'm just responding to.
No, I understand that. I'm asking you a separate question.
So I'm just pointing out you can't say I forget the specific word.
I know. That's why
I'm not using.
That's why I am. That is why I am conceding the point to you that the definition of murder, the definition of murder you're using is good, right? But you understand that the definition I'm using of murder is good too. But that we're using two separate definitions of murder, and it's just confusing the argument.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, go on.
There's different definitions.
And right now, Philo and I are using different definitions of cult, and we're getting confused. Okay, but I don't think we're not getting as confused because I understand that Raelians and Trumpers are not necessarily the same thing.
So anyway, my point is that you've been referring to vegans as a cult. And yes, that is applicable under a more casual definition.
Right.
But when you use that word, just like I disagree with Ask Yourself using the word murder because of the first definition, because of the legalistic definition, because of how it means unlawfully killing, basically. Right. I mean, executing a prisoner is not murder. Having an abortion is not murder. Now, you could call it that, but it just infuses the conversation with a lot of emotional rhetoric, and it's not useful.
I agree. And atheists hate the word community, but can we call it the vegan community? Is that acceptable?
We can do that.
Okay.
We can do that. I just asked you to stop using the word cult because it does sort of the same thing.
Yes. So the vegan community, they have their own rules.
Sort of. There are major fissures in the vegan community.
And I take those rules and I tear them up.
Yeah, I mean, they're the deontological vegans who, kind of Francione type vegans. They think, okay, absolutely it's wrong no matter what. Then there are consequentialist vegans who say, okay, eating animal products, harming animals like this, overall it has bad consequences. We shouldn't do it. And they appeal to more empirical evidence. They look, it's damaging the environment and it's harmful to the animals, and we should consider harm to the animals because of metaethics, because we want to appeal to a universal morality so that we can all discuss these things and come to agreements. I mean, that's kind of what Haidt was getting at with his heterodox academy, right? He wants people to talk together, across these ideological lines so that we can come and we can form a consensus of a universal morality. We can get rid of all the arbitrary in-groups and out-groups, and we can stop.
That's never going to happen, but
I mean, the idea is that at least we can start coming to a consensus and we can start using that to inform our value judgments so that we aren't always talking past each other.
I think, I would like vegans to be helpful in working at one of the things that bothers me is I am not into the industrial farming as many people are. Okay, I don't want to see animals suffering. I want the meat, but I want it to be as the least amount of suffering as possible. When vegans say no, you can't do that, it's impossible. they take this extreme position that takes, you know, fishing away from people. What is, when you talk about people going fishing, like catching fish, cutting the fish up and eating them, like how is that even remotely, like that's not bad, that's good.
Adam, you just said you want to cause the least amount of, yeah, exactly. You just said you want to cause the least amount of suffering possible. So hooking a fish, pulling it out of the water, causing it to suffocate is causing it some suffering. It would cause it certainly less suffering if you just left it alone. So the least amount of suffering would be to leave the fish alone.
Well, I mean the least amount of suffering in that it gets in my belly, okay?
Would you agree that, say, I agree that mock meats aren't completely equivalent to animal-based meats. I mean, people can tell the difference. There are things like the Impossible Burger. It's getting close, right? People say it's, you know, an 8 out of 10 burger or something like that. Right. Would you say that because suffering has a little value, you would be willing to accept, you know, an artificial meat? Say it's a lab meat. Say it's the clean meat, as they say, the in vitro meat. Maybe that tastes exactly identical. Would you say that we would have a moral compulsion to choose that over meat that required killing animals?
Not at all.
All other things being equal?
Not at all. Yeah.
Even though one tastes exactly the same as the other, and there's no suffering in one, and there's some suffering in the other.
A lot of people on the left are against GMOs and whatnot, but
I know
they seem to be for mock meats and against GMOs, and it just seems outrageous.
That's not evidence-based. It's ridiculous. There are no moral.
I'm not necessarily against GMOs, so. But
I mean, there are deontological vegans who say that mock meats are wrong because they enforce the idea that we need to eat meat, or that they, you know, are emulating this. Like some people think that simulated child pornography is wrong. It's the same kind of argument that they're making. They're not making a consequential argument. They're not making a rational argument for it. But what I'm asking you is, okay, I put before you there's two options. You can kill animals, you can cause suffering, you can get meat, or you can get the exact same meat. It's modern innovation.
I'm going to go with the regular meat.
Why?
Because I like meat.
No, but
we've established that already.
I know, but it tastes exactly the same. It is meat. It is made from animal cells that have grown without any suffering whatsoever.
Just nature.
It
feels right.
With Adam before, philosophically.
It feels right.
I've asked him the exact same question. They're molecularly identical. The economic impact is the same. The amount of people employed is all the same. There's no difference. One requires you to kill an animal, the other one doesn't.
How about this? What if we just use anesthesia? What if we give the cows ecstasy before we kill them? So, and
you don't think, like, I know that's a joke, but you don't think people haven't already considered this? You can't do that and render meat that's edible by humans.
Oh, really? No,
well,
come
and you
on.
probably don't want to be anesthetized and killed yourself, so I don't know why you're advocating it. Look, can Philosophical and I get into this disagreement?
Totally. It's supposed to be between you guys anyway.
I'd like to finish it with Adam first, if possible.
Well, I mean, how long is that going to take? I don't have fucking forever here.
Yeah. Well, what do you got left? Because I've had all these arguments. I didn't. First of all, we're supposed.
Well, I mean, is it just to spite vegans that we would choose the meat that involves suffering if they're exactly identical? I mean, I know there's some emotional reason for you to choose that, but I'm just trying to understand where your argument is coming from.
Well, you're saying I said the same thing to Tim. You guys are trying to change my head, and it's not my head that you have to change, it's my heart, and my heart is not going to change. There's 6 different intuitions that form morality, and my intuitions
that's descriptive.
But no, that's descriptive of my proscriptive settings. My settings on those 6 different intuitions are my proscriptive view of morality. And those settings, you're trying to get me to change those settings, and I'm not going to change those settings, man. I'm not going to change them for some vegans on the internet. Come on. Let's talk in reality here.
I'll shut up. I'll shut up for the rest of the stream.
You're basically saying that you're not amenable to logic, and you have an emotional position that you're going to dogmatically adhere to no matter what. I disagree with that, but yeah.
I know you disagree with that, but the truth is the truth. Go ahead.
Okay, so if you, let's say a regular steak that was produced with the least amount of suffering, is like, we'll just give it a quantitative value of 90. It's
Sorry, I just got to point out, you realize that is just, you can determine that's false by the fact that I've already switched my position from carnism to veganism, right?
Well,
it's not
yeah,
that I
we
have
all
some fundamental issue switching my position. It's you who's never changed your position in your life, FriendEd.
You changed your position for emotional reasons and don't know it.
All right, but let me just ask my question real quick, and then I'll shut up.
Okay,
so
but
let's say,
okay.
Let's just say quantitatively.
I just want to talk to this Philo guy. Can we
let me just get through this, and then I'll shut up. I promise.
Let Tim,
for the rest of the
let Tim
stream.
talk a sec.
So if you say like least amount of harm caused steak is produced, and let's say it has a quantitative value of 80, and then let's say a vegan steak is produced and it has a quantitative value of 70. Would you prefer a steak with a quantitative value of 100 if you knew that that steak was produced by torturing the animal?
What is the quantity?
Yeah, what are you even talking about there? Quantitative value.
Quantity is like a value of how good it is. Like, let's say,
how good?
rating,
what good in what way? Good taste.
To his subjective view of taste.
Are you're telling me to play taste off of suffering, right?
Right.
When you say quantitatively good, you're talking about how good it tastes, like a 70 and an 80 and 100. Those refer to how good it tastes.
Precisely. Okay. Yeah.
I think it's a confusing argument. I mean, I don't necessarily know how to address it.
Okay, I'll just say the vegan steak caused no suffering. It tastes the worst. Okay. The regular steak tastes okay. That costs the least amount of suffering. And then the best steak that you've ever had in your life, it's like an orgasm in your mouth. It caused a ton of suffering. You had to torture the animal, and then the animal was beat to death so that it would taste that good.
I would save that steak for special occasions.
Is that an honest answer, or is that just another joke?
Yeah, no, I would.
All right, so you'd accept torturing an animal to death for the sake of your taste pleasure.
First of all, your conception of torture and my conception of torture are probably two different things. You're a very sadistic motherfucker. So I won't
use the word torture. I'll use very specific terms. The animal was flayed alive. The skin was pulled off the animal.
No, of course not. Of course not. I would not, like, come on, no. But that's not what we do, though.
I'm not saying that's what we do. I'm trying to figure out what level of concern you have for animals.
Come on.
But would you accept the animal being beaten to death?
Let's let AskYourself have the floor. Go ahead, AskYourself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, honestly, I'm sorry to be impatient. I just wouldn't even be on this stream as much as I like talking with FriendEd and Chris and
what was your
really know Tim, but
why are you here? Just to give some backstory for the audience here.
Yeah, I was actually going to do that. Well, the reason I'm here, so this philosophical vegan guy, he leaves a comment on my video telling me I'm a moral objectivist, using the word in a different sense than I'm using it. So just a completely irrelevant comment. It's like commenting on FriendEd's video and saying, hey, FriendEd, technically you're a feminist. Like, you do believe in equal rights for women. It's like, well,
I did call you a moral objectivist, though.
I know you did. I'm talking about Philo right now. Anyway, so, I mean, I just blew it off. I just said, you don't know what I'm talking about or something along those lines. I just ignored it. And then I see, he posts like just comments and comments, like huge ego investment in his own intellect. Very obvious. Just massive comments. I go over to FriendEd's channel, massive comments from him again. So I was like, okay, well, I've created an enemy. Nothing new there. I was just going to ignore it. But then I get a message telling me that he's coming on your stream to talk about me. So I was like, okay, well, I don't want just some guy spreading confusion about me. So I'm going to go on and just debunk him and point out where he's making an error. And I'll do that. But were you about to say something,
he wasn't coming on to talk about you. The tweet was actually like not talking about you, trying not to talk about you. So his comments.
Tweet, actually, I'm talking about a message that I got.
Okay, then that's something different. I saw a tweet. His comments on my video were intelligent comments, though. I invited him on to talk to me about his position, and I am under the impression he is a moral objectivist, and I am not a moral objectivist. I think you're a moral objectivist and don't know it. He's a moral objectivist and does know it. I'm a moral subjectivist. And TimJongUn is a sadistic motherfucker.
Yeah, and just to be clear, yeah, I'm totally a sadistic motherfucker, first of all. But just to be clear, you know, that confusion's probably my fault because I am the one who let Ask Yourself know we were going to be having this conversation today. And I did tell you that I was going to let him know that.
Big Mouse strikes again.
So
I wish I had the song. I wish I had it right here.
Okay, so anyway, I'm just going to get into where this guy's making an error. So obviously, there's different definitions of what it means to be a moral objectivist. I've used the term in the same way since the very dawn of my channel, and the video that FriendEd was responding to was one where I'm using it in that sense. So, I mean, you can... The sense that I use the word, I'm talking about ontology. I'm talking about
what does ontology mean?
I
don't even know what that means.
It's like the nature of how things exist. So it's looking into the nature of being.
So I'm still confused.
Onto means I think the etymology is onto means being and logic. So I think logic of being. It refers to the state in which something exists. So when you're saying that morality is objective in an ontological sense, you're saying that it exists in some way separate from subjective experience. So that is a position that I don't hold, and that's what I'm responding to.
Can I?
Philo? Well,
sorry, go ahead.
Can I just?
Yeah, go ahead.
Pretty
Finish.
quick. So it's not a complicated error to understand. So then what Philo is doing is he's coming in and he's using a different definition of moral objectivism, which is pretty much synonymous with moral universalism. And he's telling me that by that definition, I'm a moral objectivist. So my whole point is you're just using the word in a different way than I'm using it. So it's just a heap of semantic bullshit. And I don't know why you're even bothering.
So Philo, what is your definition of objective morality?
I'd be glad to move on to talk about this, but I'm wondering if we can perhaps schedule later time to continue the discussion about arbitrary qualities in groups and stuff like that.
Okay, well, let's just clear that up right now. FriendEd is wrong because he doesn't accept being discriminated against for arbitrary reasons. So he's contradicting himself. And unless he wants a moral system that accepts contradiction, which I'm pretty sure you don't, because then you can just justify anything, then you can tell him that he is wrong in that sense. So you don't accept arbitrary, you can't use arbitrary. It's pretty simple.
I do accept arbitrary.
You guys can spend hours hashing that out, but it's not a complicated point.
I already said I accept arbitrary, but okay.
I understand that you feel that addresses the issue. I don't think it's quite adequate. And
what's your definition of objective morality?
Why don't we not go off topic? Yeah, Philo, just standpoint and not just. No, I mean you can address the definition, but I'm just pointing out that your comment is just a misguided comment. I mean, you understand that you are using a different sense of the word than me, and that in the ontological sense, I am an objectivist.
Isaac,
I just want confirmation on that.
I'm not sure I can even understand what your definition of objective morality is. So it's completely unclear to me.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to trust. One second, Philo. Do you understand what I'm saying when I talk about ontologically objective morality, or do I need to explain this to everybody?
He probably does.
You can explain to everybody in a minute, but what I want to ask is, for Adam, this is the interesting conversation that I kind of wanted to get into. I wanted to talk about social intuitionism. I wanted to talk about whether it is justified to use arbitrary.
Okay, honestly, I'm just going to give you one more chance, and then I'm going to talk about that. Will you actually address what you're talking about? Because you made a stupid comment. You're coming on a live stream to supposedly talk about me. That's what I'm told. So now you're here, and I'm addressing something to you, and I'd like an answer. Do you comprehend that or not, philosophical vegan? I am talking.
I know what you're arguing.
Okay, so you understand that in the ontological sense of the word, I am a moral objectivist or subjectivist.
So
sorry.
Explain it to us, Philo, in English.
No, wait. Just don't come in. Just do you get that, Philo?
That may or may not be true. That is a question of conversation. I just want to establish with Adam that maybe.
Okay, but if you're not seriously, start talking about what I'm talking to you about. This is really the last chance, or I'm just going to dip from the stream. Adam doesn't want to fucking hear it either. Let's get into the topic. I'm here for you right now. You've been ranting about me all over the internet, so here's your chance to debunk Ask Yourself, and you should be glad you're anon because you're just going to get murked and look like a fucking embarrassment. So again, I put it to you for, I don't know, the 4th or 5th time now. In the ontological sense of the term objectivism, I am ontologically a moral subjectivist. I don't think that morality exists independently of subjective reality. All of the shit that you get into about realism, talking about fucking that pi exists regardless of whether people are there to observe pi, that the concept of a circle is still coherent, complete missing of the point, okay? the conditions that we would evaluate as being moral, they still exist regardless of whether anyone is there to evaluate them or not. But the evaluation that a given set of conditions is moral depends on a subject. So do you comprehend this? I am, ontologically speaking, not a moral objectivist. Please just yes or no. Don't start talking to Adam.
Yes, I understand your argument.
And do you agree?
I don't fully agree with your argument. You have
okay. Where do you disagree? Where do you? How am I not a, ontologically speaking? How am I not a moral subjectivist? Please explain that to me.
Well, I would ask you, ontologically speaking, do you think that mathematics and logic are subjective?
Ontologically speaking, do I think that mathematics and logic are subjective?
Would you think those are also subjective?
I think that they are based on certain assumptions and definitions that you have to make. Like, obviously, I mean, logic is based on certain metaphysical assumptions, and then science is based on the assumptions of logic. So do I think that they correspond to an objective reality? Sure. Do I think that it's objectively true to say up is the direction above me? No, that is you choosing to define that direction as up. And once you define it, you can talk objectively about what is or isn't up. Just like once you define light of wavelength, 445 to 495 or whatever it is, nanometers as blue, you can talk objectively about what is or is not blue. Just like finally with morality, once you define what good is, you can talk objectively about what is good. But the step of making the definition, the step of saying what you consider to be good, that is subjective. There's no getting around that.
I don't think that your actual arguments indicate that you have that belief, or you're not making your arguments very well.
Okay, well, that's just an assertion. You want to actually explain how?
I would love to.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I mean, let's start for this formal argument that you provided. You say arguments for animal.
Wait, just before proceeding, you do understand that ontologically I am a moral subjectivist. You understand that I don't believe that morality is independent of mind, right? The reality we evaluate as being moral, that's independent of mind, just like the reality that we perceive as green is independent of mind. But the determination that it's moral, or the qualia subjective human experience that it's green, that is subjective. Ontologically, I am a moral subjectivist. So I'm just asking for confirmation that you comprehend that.
Assuming you also agree that mathematics and logic are not independent of mind, then yeah, maybe you hold that position. I would say you're contradicting yourself, but...
How? How am I contradicting myself?
I was going to get into your argument.
Well, it seems like you keep sidestepping my question, because we're talking now.
I need to go over your argument to show you where the contradictions are, where the missing premises are that indicate that you have some objective.
Okay, what I perceive you as saying there is I need to avoid your question and ramble my way into something else.
No,
but,
he's
go
making.
ahead.
Let him.
Go ahead.
Let him. You've had the floor. Let him give his argument. Philo.
Yeah, just a second. Okay, so
what's he trying to argue right now? Are you trying to argue that I am a moral objectivist? That I believe that morality exists independent of subjective reality?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Wait, I'm not asking you. I'm asking him.
What I am clear on is that you seem to be a moral universalist.
That's okay. That is again, sorry to cut you off, but that's exactly the error that I laid out immediately when I started talking. You are taking the second, taking a different definition.
What does moral universalist mean for us idiots?
I don't want to get bogged down explaining this to all you guys. It's pretty basic.
No, well, there's the audience. There is the audience.
I'm just here to debunk Philo. I'm talking at a level that people who know what we're talking about will be able to understand what I'm talking about.
Just for us cavemen.
You're talking about something that can be universalized. So if you define good as that which produces the most well-being, then universally across the board, anywhere in the universe, for any action, in principle, you can say whether it's good or bad and how wrong it is and how good or bad it is relative to another action.
So it's independent of whether or not people adopt it.
Well, I mean, it's the universal means it's applicable everywhere. It's a totalizing moral system.
Yeah, it's the best morality.
Which is, by the way, a different definition of objectivism, which is why you're completely off point here, philosophical vegan. That is not how I use the word.
So let him talk. What do you say?
So I would ask, how was Adam using the word when he said that he thought you were a moral objectivist? Because the way I interpret it is
let me answer that. So he's responding to a video.
You're going to answer. You're going to answer for me. Holy shit!
I really.
Oh, by all means. By all means.
He's two things. First of all, he's responding to a video where I'm using the word to talk about objective and subjective in the ontological sense, and he contrasts it at the very start of his sentence with the word subjective. You have claimed on many occasions that morality is subjective, so that is what he's contrasting it with.
Yeah, but now, I was very clear.
That poorly, or he means something else. That's fine.
No. I was very clear. I was very clear. You are saying that morality is subjective, and I agree that morality is subjective. But what I am saying is, if you're saying my morality is better than any other morality, and judging those other moralities and saying they're immoral, you are a moral objectivist, because you're basically saying objectively my morality is better than any other morality. Yes. So there
you go, philosophical vegan. So what sense of the word do you think that is?
I can barely understand you as you're talking over each other.
Okay, well, I think you're just not following the conversation.
Can I ask you a question, Adam?
Yes.
Man, I'm sorry, you're just annoying me. You're sidestepping all over the place. He just made it abundantly clear to you.
This is why we need a moderator. I said you could
if we had a moderator, the moderator would tell you to
I am the moderator. Everyone, be quiet. Go ahead.
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
When you said that you believed that AskYourself was a moral objectivist, it seemed like you were doing the dichotomy kind of view, the subjectivist, objectivist, where subjectivist would not say things about other moral systems. A subjectivist does not have any problem with moral systems being arbitrary. A subjectivist may not even have problems with moral.
I make the distinction between subjectivist and relativist. A moral relativist will say there are all these different moralities and no one can say one is better than the other. A subjectivist will say there are all these different moralities, but I can judge them on different criteria which are better than the others. A objectivist would say there is one morality out there that we can all agree is the best morality. And I don't necessarily know that there's a best morality. I know that some moralities are better than other moralities, but so evidently we're in agreement. Ask yourself. We can tick that off.
Of course, I know how you're using the word. It's just this guy. So, Philo, do you follow that? Do you get the sense he's using the word?
Yeah, what sense are you using the word, Philo?
You're using an incorrect distinction between
when Philo's using the word, he's talking about universalism, which is another. Sometimes people use objectivism to refer to it, but it's a completely separate point. It's like coming on again a video about feminism and saying, "FriendEd, you're a feminist by the dictionary definition." That's not the definition I'm using. So no idea what you're talking about or how you perceive that to be even remotely relevant.
I've done a few streams on objective morality, but I'm definitely a fish out of water here. So Philo, go ahead, say your piece.
Okay, I think you're making an incorrect distinction between relative and subjective morality. Adam.
You're saying that, but I mean, okay. As long as you understand me.
Oh, man, it's like you have no ability to stay on point. You're not, right now, you are supposed to be communicating with me. You're supposed to be explaining to me how I am a moral objectivist. I have told you how I'm not, and I'm awaiting concession on that point.
That's a great point.
Do you understand this? Do you get that, ontologically speaking, I am a subjectivist?
I don't know if that's the case or not. Can I go through the argument?
Yeah, do it.
No. You need to wait. No, you need to. It's not complicated. All you need to understand is that. No, because it's a derail. FriendEd. It's what?
How's it a derail?
Don't even know some of these terms, so I'm not. It's a derail.
None of us know any of these terms, man.
I know good for them.
You're talking.
Oh, look, wait. When I say that, I'm sorry to hold the floor, but I'm not letting him go off point. When you say that I am ontologically speaking a moral objectivist. That is not my position. I believe that morality is contingent on subjective minds to evaluate something as moral. I don't think that morality exists without a subject who think it exists. Just like love does not exist without a subject there to think it exists. So we can talk about the truth value of that. We can talk about all that. But Philo, do you get that that is my position? Do you comprehend that I do not think that morality exists outside of subjective experience?
I didn't claim that you subscribe to robust realism.
Okay,
no,
so
now there's a third
okay,
thing.
he's just avoiding the point.
The first definition that you cited when you went to the Wikipedia page for moral objectivism may refer to robust moral realism. I never claimed that you believed in robust moral realism. You may or may not.
So,
I don't know that.
Philo, okay, so if you understand that you are using a different definition of the term than me, then how do you even see that as remotely relevant to come into the conversation and say that to me? You think I don't know that I believe that my system is universalizable? That doesn't mean that I don't still hold, in some respects, a relativistic position. You might just be too dichotomized in your thinking from philosophy, frankly. You know, you can have multiple universalizable systems that are incompatible with each other. I mean, and now we're going off point. Just if you understand that, if you understand that ontologically speaking, I'm a moral subjectivist, your comment on my video is irrelevant.
You understand his position, right? I mean, the
definitions
are immaterial, really. Like I said.
Yeah. So and this is why I'm not letting him run off, because unless he's going to say, Isaac, in some sense, you believe that morality exists, separate from subjective experience, then he's not actually contradicting what I've said and what I intended in all my videos up to that very point. He's just randomly taking a different definition and saying, by this definition, you're an objectivist.
Yeah, let's give Philo 3 minutes here, and you can bugger off right after this.
I don't know if I can go over it in 3 minutes, but I'll try. So he starts off, argument for animal moral value. Proposition 1, humans are of moral value. This is just an arbitrary rule, and I know he knows it's an arbitrary rule. And then proposition 2, there's no trait absent in animals. This is making an implicit assumption. It's an implicit rejection of arbitrary rules. The assumption is that humans being of moral value has to be based on a trait.
So let him talk. Let him talk.
I'm sorry. There's already two things that are wrong there. So first of all, when you read off the first statement that humans are of moral value,
take some notes.
Wait. That's not an ontological truth claim. That's a subjective claim.
I don't want to mute you.
When you're saying that my morality assumes consistency and rejects arbitrariness, yes, it does, but I don't believe that is.
That was the point.
That does not make me an ontological objectivist. That you're talking about basically epistemology there. I mean, I don't even know what to say to that. I don't assume that consistency is a God dictated rule. It's a rule that I accept, and that I assume any other rational person who's talking about morality is going to accept, because otherwise you can justify anything on the grounds that you don't have to be consistent. I don't think that's an ontologically objective principle, and I don't think humans have moral value is an ontologically objective principle.
I'm confused too, so continue.
Okay.
Let him talk for. Let him finish his point.
Well,
okay.
It's just not in my being to be able to when he comes at it from false angles. But you can go ahead and try to get to a correct statement.
I wish I knew how to.
You said that you reject arbitrarity. That is not the same as
I personally
consistency. Okay, you personally do, but you put this into your logical framework and you hide it in there without any premise.
Hide it. Hide it. It's what the fuck are you talking about? I always point out. Look at how many videos I point out that you have to accept human moral value and logical consistency in order to actually go into that argument.
No, that's not accurate. Look.
Okay, well, it's objectively true to say that's something that I've laid out many times. So maybe you haven't watched enough of my content.
Maybe, but look, the formal argument you presented does not follow. It is logically incoherent.
Okay, how is that possibly true? Explain that.
You are missing a premise. You are missing the premise of rejection of arbitrary rules. If you had proposition 1, humans are
no. Wait. That just when I reject inconsistency. And unless
arbitrarity and consistency are different.
I reject. Okay, I'm very aware of that, you fucking moron. So I understand.
Hey! No, let's not.
I have no patience for this. So
yeah, but
I assume that inconsistency is wrong. I don't personally want to be treated inconsistently. That is more deeply embedded than a rejection of arbitrary morality. That follows from the principle that inconsistency is wrong.
It
does for me, because I personally do not want to be mistreated for arbitrary reasons. So it would be inconsistent for me to mistreat others for arbitrary reasons.
Okay, now you're introducing another axiom. You're basically introducing the golden rule as an axiom in your morality, and you
Ding, ding,
Oh my-
ding, 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 ding.
God,
Yeah,
you're
he
a
is.
real fucking idiot. It's like you
No,
don't
he's
comprehend.
not.
I personally accept that I should be consistent because I want to be treated consistently. You know, that is a subjective moral belief that I hold, and that I argue others into on the basis that not accepting it will lead to absurd moral systems that they don't want to accept. I never at any point make that argument on the assumption that it is somehow objectively true that you can't be inconsistent, or objectively true that you can't have arbitrary distinctions, or objectively true that humans have moral value. These are subjective assumptions that I make, that I argue others into, based on the understanding that if they don't accept them, they're going to generate a horrendous moral system that they won't accept.
What are the two inconsistent axioms, Philo?
The inconsistent. Well, the thing is argument is not morally. It's not logically coherent.
Right.
He's missing. He's missing.
Okay, so spell out how. Wait. How is it
What are
not
the-
logically?
Just
It does
hey,
not follow.
he
Proposition 1.
Okay,
proposition
how
2, and
how
conclusion. It
how?
doesn't
Okay,
follow.
explain how does it not
just
follow?
all
Saying
we
you
need
don't
is the
get
two
introduced-
axioms.
Wait,
Isaac, just be
saying
quiet
that you
long
don't
enough that we can get the two axioms.
Wait. Saying that you don't introduce the axiom that arbitrary moral decisions are wrong. How does that make my argument not followed? Are you saying that makes premise 2 not follow from premise 1? What are you saying?
It makes the conclusion not follow from the premises. Premises
How?
don't follow from each other. The conclusion doesn't
How?
follow because you're saying there isn't a trait absent in animals. But that assumes that you need a trait to justify the moral value of humans. That is not included in premise 1. All you say is humans have moral value.
Yeah. Okay.
You
So
don't
do you think that I think that is a ontologically objective thing that you need to do? Is that what you're trying to say?
You need to add it into the argument as a premise. Otherwise, you're being dishonest and you're
Yeah,
creating
you're
this-
sneaking a premise in. You're on the ropes,
just-
Isaac. You're on the ropes.
Well, telling someone that they're
Oh,
being
shit.
dishonest
I'm
is
supposed
actually an
to- hey.
explanation of how it stops the conclusion of following from the premises.
I'm supposed
So
to be
when
moder-
you're,
hey.
when you're
You can
asking,
do that.
I'm supposed to be
When you're
moderator
asking
here.
what-
I'm sorry about the outburst. Okay, Isaac.
okay,
Let-
it's fine.
go-
It's fine.
what-
I think this guy's profoundly confused, and it's very obvious that there's ego investment in
Do
it.
you-
And it's frustrating to even deal with.
Isaac, and there's
When
no
you have
there's no
a-
ego investment on your side.
Ooh,
Come on. Only
when
one
you
person has
tell me-
ego at this table? Come on.
Well, I mean, every human has an ego, but I don't sense that philosophical vegan's coming from a place of
There's
honesty.
one
I mean,
there's one
he made a
person that's
comment,
there's
and I s-
one person
hey,
that's not
he-
letting
he made-
anyone
he made a
talk, and
comment.
it's not
Well, that's 'cause he's
philosophical
going off
vegan.
point. It's because he's going off point, and I'm not
Let
gonna
him
put
make
up
his
with it.
point.
I
Let him
think
make
I
his
just want
point.
to correct your argument so that you use a better argument and you are more convinced.
I'm sure you know how I can make a better argument. You fucking random.
No,
anon. So,
dude, he's not. He knows his shit.
Again,
man.
honestly, I'm just like I'm getting to the limit of my patience.
Well,
with this
if
person.
you
He won't
want to
fucking answer.
take off, and we'll hear the argument with you off the
Yeah.
stream, that's totally feasible.
Well, I think that I'll probably do that because there's
Okay.
no communicating with a person like this. Now, you can look at this conversation and say Isaac is talking more. He's talking over people. I am resetting the conversation on topic. I can't get answers to my questions. You tell me that my
have all your
conclusion doesn't follow
questions
from
been
my
answered?
premises.
Have all your questions been
No,
answered?
and I haven't gotten fucking answers to anything. This guy just rambles.
We
So,
figured out
when
our
you-
miscommunication. That's good.
Wait. When he tells me that my conclusion doesn't follow from my premises, I see no evidence of how that's true. His argument seems to be that you're asserting that you have to name a trait and that there's no objective reason why that's true. Again,
I've had other people tell me that you've
Again, it
smuggled
comes-
an axiom in. So I've had other
Okay,
people
well,
tell me that same
I'm
thing.
not sure who you're talking to or how they think that.
I'm talking to
When-
people that know more about logic than either one of us. So I mean, obviously,
Okay, well,
I didn't.
I'm talking
I
about
didn't study
common
this stuff.
sense.
Common
So-
sense is common to you,
wait,
though. It's not common to
okay, so-
everyone.
Yeah, that's not an axiom. You can't just be like
Philo.
common
Yeah,
sense.
the
proposition
common
one.
sense
Yeah,
axiom.
you think I'm literally just saying common sense though? It's a retarded straw man. So, Philo, when you try to say that my conclusion,
I love how every
doesn't
straw
follow-
man is always
Man,
a retarded
Adam,
straw
you
man.
have
It's
to
never just a
actually-
regular straw man.
why do I even bother, man? It's like you have to actually
It
let
is
me
true.
speak.
The-
When
these-
you tell me,
The
I'm trying to
scarecrow
respond to this
didn't have a
criticism.
brain. You're right. He was
Adam,
retarded.
Adam, come on. I don't do this to you if you come on my stream.
Bullshit. You did it to me for 2 hours.
I listen to people talk, and if they can't stay on point, I will jump in 100%.
You don't. You really don't.
Don't
okay.
Let him
shut the fuck up.
Just
You're
let him.
Idiot.
No.
Okay. Let me articulate my point, and then I'm going to drop out of
We
here,
know your point. We know your point. We already know your point.
Friended, you have never grasped my point. And Philo, when you attempt to say that I am arbitrarily smuggling in the concept that you have to name a trait, well, I'm pretty sure that you don't want to be discriminated against just based on some fucking arbitrary random difference. I'm pretty sure that you're going to say that they actually have to spell out a legitimate reason. So you would be contradicting yourself by not holding the same principle in other contexts. You would be special pleading. So again, it's not that it's an ontologically objective moral principle. It comes from an understanding that you have to be consistent. And again, you can reject consistency, but it leads to absurd moral systems. That's what you point out to get people on board with the concept of consistency. If you're on board,
an argument for moral objectivism. You have to state.
You're an idiot.
You can't.
Okay. I'm actually convinced that this person is a moron. You do not comprehend what you're talking about.
Isaac,
you don't have a good understanding of ethics.
You're convinced everyone is a moron. So
we're convinced a lot of people
cool with
morons.
it. We're fine with it, man. It's cool. It's you.
So anyway, I would just conclude by saying this person, their criticism of me is completely retarded, completely off point. It's the same thing as coming into FriendEd's video saying, oh, you're a feminist by this definition, but the sense that you're actually using the word and criticizing the term, which is very fucking obvious that you're not a feminist. I'm just going to ignore that.
Why are you so
herring off point?
Why are you so aggravated about this?
And because I'm annoyed with the dishonesty or the stupidity. I don't know which it is.
It's not dishonesty, man. Why? What is?
Let me fucking cap my point and get off the stream.
What is the motivation for being dishonest? None of us are being dishonest here. You're not being dishonest.
It could also be stupidity. I genuinely don't know. It could be ego. I'm just going to make my final statement and get off of here because this is just infuriating to deal with. I don't even know what the fuck this guy's thinking.
Well, we're going to know as soon as you leave.
Okay. Well, Philo, your statement, your original comment is completely irrelevant. It's not the definition I'm using. And your attempts to tell me that my argument is inconsistent make false assumptions that I'm holding principles ontologically to be objective when I'm not. I'm assuming those principles because that's how I want to be treated, and I argue people into accepting those base principles before moving through the argument. It's very simple.
Sounds simple.
It's simple to a person who can understand, but it's not simple to a fucking moron or a dishonest person or someone who's got ego investment in trying to sound like they know what's up when it comes to philosophy. That's what I perceive this guy to do. So I'm going to dip now. And
thanks for coming on.
If I see you guys and if I see a collab between you guys, I will probably murk you once again, Philip.
Hey, hold on.
Enjoy the embarrassment, and that is all. Bye-bye.
What's up, Tim?
We are the world. We are the children.
Where's my song?
Okay, can we talk about this now?
Yes. Sorry about that.
Oh man, yeah, that's kind of what I thought would happen.
So I have heard people tell me the same exact thing, that he's smuggling in an extra axiom. I think
there may be one, there may be two or
three. Ginger Bill has said there's an extra axiom. I mean, you just got to lay this stuff out in a video, because he's not going to let you get it out any other way. But go ahead, speak your piece.
Okay, so proposition 1, humans are of moral value. And then proposition 2, there's not a trait absent in humans, or absent in animals, which is absent in humans, would cause us to deem ourselves valueless. Mm-hmm. There are like 2 implicit additional propositions. Right. One is that you can't just have an arbitrary trait. I mean, a proposition that says, like, humans are of moral value, then proposition 2, if you said it's not okay to have, moral value based on an arbitrary basis, so it must be a trait. And then proposition 3 was there's not a trait. Okay, that would be great. That would be fine.
And what I'm doing, I'm taking advantage of that invisible premise, and I'm saying, yeah, the trait is that you're human.
Yeah, absolutely. You can say anything you want, because he hasn't defined it. You could say the trait is that I care, or the trait is that I don't want to kill you.
Well, these are all the traits that I have named. So,
and then he comes back and he says, well, you can't do that because you wouldn't want it done to you.
Right.
Which now he's introducing another axiom, which is the golden rule: don't do unto others as you wouldn't have them do unto you. I mean, that is fine. That is a wonderful argument. That is an excellent basis for universal morality. There are very good arguments to endorse that, but
right.
he's not laying it out. It's dishonest, or it's, you know, as he said, it's maybe a little bit naive on his part to think that he can do that and get away with it. I don't know. Or he's just maybe too invested in.
Well, I don't, just, he's threw a lot of insults at you, and I feel bad because, I mean, you're obviously a smart guy. I've communicated with you in private. I've communicated with you in my comment section. And I mean, I don't have a dog in this fight at all, because I could, like, obviously I'm here because I like talking about moral psychology. And I feel like, obviously, you know, moral psychology. Like, you've read Jonathan Haidt, you know the stuff that I'm talking about. Do you want to get in? You had earlier wanted to get into a disagreement with me before the Ask Yourself came up.
I'm not sure if we'll have time this time. Maybe we can do another time.
Can we just?
If I finish going through this stuff, then we'll probably have to close pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm a bit worn out myself. So, but
yeah, maybe another time we can.
I think. Can you throw out the basics just so I can think about it? What were you going to say earlier? And also the audience, we left them hanging on. You wanted to say something before Ask Yourself got involved. So. Oh
yeah. I just wanted to see if maybe we could talk about this Ask Yourself stuff, and then we could talk about, like, the meat of the argument that I really wanted to get into.
So social intuition. You don't want to do it, but people are on the stream listening right now. So.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have time, because I think we'll really get into it, and it'll be like, oh man, it's like, you know, it's been a couple hours. We got because we've only got like 30 something minutes until it's been 2 hours, and I'll have to go pretty soon.
When do you have to go?
I'll probably have to go in about, at the very most, an hour.
Okay, well, we have an hour. Come on.
But I mean, it could interrupt me at any time. So.
Well, that's fine. If you're interrupted, I'll talk to Chris. Chris can assault me with his shaming. Chris, you got some good shaming queued up?
I've always got lots of good shaming.
Okay, he's ready. He's ready.
I just want to take the opportunity to say, like, obviously, as you can tell, I'm super passionate about this stuff. But I actually think you're a nice guy. I do enjoy your videos. You do make me laugh a lot with your razzle dazzling.
Oh man!
Yeah, I just want you to know I'm passionate for the animals.
I didn't get to put any razzle dazzle on that one. So I feel bad.
I wasn't taking any razzle dazzle in there.
So go ahead. Come on.
I'll just wrap up this name your trait argument, because there were a few more points.
Okay, do it.
Okay, so if you add those two additional premises, then yeah, that's absolutely excellent. Or you can add either one of them, I guess. Either one would probably work. Then it's, you know, very sound argument. You can establish that animals are of moral value. Then he has this other section he's added below this, like argument for veganism from animal moral value. Mm-hmm. That's possibly the weaker side of the argument, if you can call it that. Animals are of moral value, and then there is not a trait absent. You know, it goes to the trait thing again, which that's fine if you've already established that in the prior argument. And then he says that causes us to consider anything short of non-exploitation. It seems like some sort of deontological thing. I mean, human exploitation, obviously, we don't want human exploitation because we're part of a social contract, and we don't want, you know, the government coming in and, like, harvesting our organs and giving it to other people. So
Tim wants that, but we don't.
We generally wouldn't be okay with killing one person, harvesting the organs, assuming there weren't, like, all the immune implications, and giving it to other people, to like 10 other people to save their lives. I mean, in principle, yes, that would be a good on paper. Oh, you know, you killed one person, you saved 10. It's basically the trolley problem.
Yeah, it is.
But where it differs from the trolley problem is that the government or somebody is actually coming in and doing this, and you have to be against that, because otherwise we don't have social order. I mean, I know you understand these things.
Yeah, definitely.
You're talking about in-group, you're talking about social contract, and it's just a really weak argument because it's really ignorant.
So for the other vegans on the stream, though, can you lay out the strongest argument? Because you've said that that's the weakest argument, but you imply that there's a stronger one.
Oh, I was just saying, it's true. Like, the first part is you only have to add in, you know, one premise to the first part, and then you're pretty much solid. His argument for animal moral value. Okay, that is a solid argument. If you accept that morality isn't just arbitrary, if you won't say that, you know, objectively Nazi morality is worse than, you know, our morality. If you can't find an objective basis to do that, then you're like a pure subjectivist or a pure relativist, and that's not going to appeal to you. You're going to be like, well, you know, you choose the golden rule, I choose the brass rule, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that argument, I think most people are going to be very receptive if you put in something like the golden rule, you know, like that it's not okay to have arbitrary ethics.
So you're just saying to throw the axiom in. You're saying to,
yeah, just be honest. Just put the axiom in there.
Okay, so what are the, name all the 3 axioms? I think you have 3 or 4 axioms.
Okay, you've got humans are of moral value.
Okay.
And then you can add in, it's not okay to like arbitrarily determine moral value. So you do have to have some kind of empirical trait. You have to have, you know, like intelligence or something like that. You have to have a trait that gives that moral value to humans. And then you can go on to say, look, there's not a trait absent in animals, which is absent in humans would cause us to deem ourselves valueless.
Right.
In that one, so you don't even have to say cause us deem themselves value. You don't even have to say cause us to deem ourselves valueless. But that's kind of trying to smuggle in the golden rule there. It's trying to be, you know, self-referential, but I mean it's really vague and it's not at all clear. It's like, okay, well, this is appealing to the golden rule, but the golden rule isn't in there either. So
am I safe because I take the arbitrary route? Then I'm.
If you accept arbitrary moral value, if you say like I have no objective basis to say that, you know, Nazi morality is worse or better than my morality, if you're willing to jump in that boat.
I'm not willing to jump in that boat. Jesus, come on.
Well, I mean, if you accept any basis of judgment of morality.
I do though, but you see there.
But what basis do you accept? And is that an arbitrary basis? See, it's just like who created God?
If you look at
the God that created God.
If you look at
Sorry.
morality though through like the Sam Harris moral landscape lens, there are different peaks, and those
are based on well-being and the assumption that well-being is important. Do you have that axiom in your morality? And if so,
I think the metaphor still works, even though I don't agree that it all comes down to care harm. Even though I don't agree with that point, I think the metaphor of the peaks and that there theoretically is a Mount Everest out there, that there's the highest peak that we would call objective morality. But these, like, you want to compare, this is always the vegans seem to take the extremes. They want to compare Nazi morality and our morality, when I think really you're comparing maybe, you know, why can't it be French morality and American morality?
Let me talk about signal to noise ratio for a minute. Okay, we have a lot of noise going on as far as our beliefs of other cultures, things like that, our own emotions, which
definitely
are, you know, arbitrary influences. Now, in order to overcome the signal to noise ratio, to get a really strong signal, you have to use like a really dramatic example of differences, because those are as logically identical as, say, French morality and our morality, or Nazi morality and our morality.
So
those would both be logically sound.
Right. So you're saying the French and
the using extreme.
What do you want to say?
No, not like French or Nazis. I'm saying that the logical argument that you can't accept an arbitrary difference, well, it doesn't matter if that arbitrary difference is small or enormous. So it's very easy for people to emotionally say, you know, oh, I accept the arbitrary difference between our morality and French morality, but they're not really accepting arbitrary differences generally. They're just applying that to a situation where the noise is so great, you can't really get a signal for the difference. Now, if you use Nazi morality as an example, then your signal is very strong.
Give us a detail. Give us a detail on the arbitrary, because when I think of arbitrary, I'm thinking an arbitrary rule against eating bacon, like, and that's
okay. No, arbitrarity can apply to anything, like from anything that's not based on just sound reason, argument, and logic. You know,
right.
That would be arbitrary. Like if you say that humans have moral value, okay, why? Then you say, okay, you know, because of a certain trait, and then animals have this trait too. Well, even naming a particular trait is an arbitrary choice unless there is a reasoned argument to say that trait is important.
So what did you want to
name the trait? Oh, sorry.
What did you want to say about social intuitionism?
Social intuitionism? I think we'd have to get into that. I just wanted to cover his argument and then see if we would get onto arbitrary is a good thing to lead into that. If you want to dig into arbitrary, and then we can talk about social intuitionism and how it applies. So, I mean, do you accept arbitrary differences? Because if you don't, like all the arbitrary differences, you can't arbitrarily accept some arbitrary differences, but not others.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I do in Name the Trade, I'm accepting an arbitrary difference because the arbitrary difference is that they're human beings and not livestock.
But you can't arbitrarily accept some arbitrary differences and not other arbitrary differences.
Why not?
Because then you're still being arbitrary. It's like saying God created the universe. Okay, who created God? Well, Metagod created God. Well, who created Metagod? You have to have an objective basis to claim that something is morally relevant. Otherwise, you do accept arbitrary differences, and there's no degrees of arbitrarity.
The utility. I mean, the thing could be arbitrary, but the utility is kind of at a different level of it, because who knows what arbitrary things are going to increase social capital and make the society function more smoothly.
Okay, but now you're appealing to like social function. That is what you want at the root of an objective morality.
Okay.
And then we have to ask, is that arbitrary? And if we are looking to maximize social function, does that imply that we should promote veganism?
I don't know, man. I think maybe we should go back to the shaming. I feel like we're talking about time travel here.
Yeah, but I mean, the shaming is where you're winning the conversation.
No, I don't feel like I'm winning. It's much more painful. I feel like maybe I just take my licks. My point
is that either you accept arbitrary bases for moral value, or you want all moral value to have some sort of objective basis. Now, you can argue for different objective bases for morality, but they have to have strong arguments behind them. It can't just be like, I like it. That's not objective. That's arbitrary.
I like it is arbitrary.
Yes. Our interests are arbitrary. Our personal interests, like what the people I like or don't like, these are all arbitrary aspects of, emotion, subjective elements.
Okay. I mean, you could make
arbitrary reasoning in a judicial system.
Pardon?
Well, I'm asking Adam. Would you? I think I already know your answer.
No, not at all. No, obviously not.
So in a judicial system, to make adjudications requires impartiality.
I don't think impartiality and arbitrary are on the same. They're not talking about the same thing.
Well, if you're saying that it's arbitrary to do things based on you like that or you have a preference for it, I would say it is somewhat of the same thing, because you'd be partial to the things you like.
The thing about the judicial system is that we're trying to get justice mediated out equally to everyone. Like the arbitrary thing would be like a judge comes in and says, I'm going to rule this way because it's my brother-in-law and I don't want him to go to jail, right?
Or because they're white, or because they're female, or because they're another species.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about, so if we talk about justice, I'm just using judicial system as a medium to get to the point about justice in general. Justice can exist outside of a judicial system.
Yeah, totally. It does exist outside. The judicial system is...
I mean, a judicial system has an objective goal. It has an objective basis. It's trying to see those laws through equally, so everybody knows, how they stand or what the consequences of actions are going to be. In terms of when you remove justice from the social concept, from the social construct, I'm not sure you can really assert that justice exists independently, objectively, outside of that.
I mean, you can make a just distinction between things outside of a judicial system.
You can justify things, but then you have to do it logically. You have to do it based on a different objective basis rather than say.
I totally agree. I'm not trying to make an appeal to that. I agree with you.
Okay. There's a difference between justice and justifying. Like that's a confusing aspect. Like justice has a lot of philosophical and moral implications.
That's not quite what I mean, but I'm saying to mete out justice, whether it be in a judicial system or not, requires impartiality.
Well, the impartiality has to do with mediating it out equally to everyone. Like, if we're going to make, stealing a candy bar a murderable offense, I mean, that seems crazy, right? But as long as everyone gets the same punishment, it theoretically is just. So
yeah, that's legal justice.
Yeah.
And then there's also the meta-ethical justice of deontology. And then there's justifying, which is a logical concept that you use a logical argument to justify something.
Right.
So these are like three different things that we're talking about, and when we conflate them, it's a little confusing.
Right.
Yeah, that's not my intent to conflate them. I'm just talking about justice in the sense that if you value justice, then you should use it impartially. That's the only thing I'm trying to point out. And one real quick thing, and then I'll shut up, is I wanted to point out earlier you brought up Nazi morality and how that seems like such an extreme. But have you ever considered why there's such a high vegan population in Israel?
No, I don't think about vegans on my free time.
Well, maybe you should.
Okay. I'll devote a minute a day.
Okay, as to the Nazi thing, do you understand what I mean about the signal to noise ratio?
I do.
Really
Yeah. I do.
We really want to get at how people feel. We have to use extreme examples, and then we can.
But that is a good way. That is a good segue into the social intuitionist model, because people change their minds. This is elephant talk, Tim. People change their minds emotionally, and then their rational mind comes along for the ride.
Well, that's why I wanted Chris here.
But that's not the whole
He's good at talking to elephants. He's an elephant whisperer.
Who is? Who's
Chris? Chris is an elephant whisperer, but you just accused him of shaming you.
Bullshit! Are you kidding me? He had my elephant ready to trample people. I was like,
That's because you have a dick-headed elephant.
I'm ready to kick my own cat over here. That's how bad it is. It's like, oh, sorry, Wormy. So, okay. The social intuitionist model.
Okay, that is a descriptive model. It's a pretty good descriptive model in most cases.
Do you buy it? First of all, lay it out for our audience. Maybe my mic is better. Maybe I should lay it out. So the social intuitionist model is the idea that we are not rational beings, that our emotions evolved before our reasoning ability evolved, and that we interact with each other and have an instant gut level emotional response to different things, different people, different words, different stimulus. And that sets us, we either like it or dislike it. It sets us running towards it or running away. And our reasoning is kind of tacked on after the fact to tell us, to create a compelling story for other people, why we hate vegans or why we love vegans. So what I'm saying is, emotionally, when Ask Yourself comes on and starts calling everyone idiot, moron, asshole, like he's just making people run away, and they will come up with whatever rational argument they can to figure out why they despise what he's saying. And that reason is not necessarily, I mean, it's not always good reason. I mean, a lot of times the reason is just to justify what we're doing to other human beings. So is that a pretty good analysis of it?
You missed a really important.
Okay, what I missed?
A really important aspect of it. Okay, for one, there is that people have these emotional impulses, and then as individuals, most people will use reason or misuse reason. They will rationalize, and they will try to explain away or explain the reasons for those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
That's arbitrary. That tends to be arbitrary. If they're using logic correctly, then it may be fine. But it tends to be that people will rationalize them rather than being rational. They will rationalize those emotions, right, and they will try to explain why they feel that way. That is on an individual level. It doesn't apply to everybody, but it applies to most people.
Right.
But on a group level, when you have people of different beliefs, when you have a conservative and a liberal, and if they talk to each other, they will use reason, and they can convince each other of things based on reason. They don't just have to do it emotionally. Reason can actually prevail, and that's part of the model. That's why that's why he established the heterodox academy.
Right. But if it's not emotionally charged? I mean, if it's something people like,
we need to avoid emotionally charging things. We need to avoid saying murder. We need to avoid saying cult. Even, you know, we need to avoid these things, and then we can use reason. And
not giving up my cult. No, I
I
agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I totally agree with you 100%.
That's, you know, we have to pop these echo chambers, which is I don't want to. I think Ask Yourself is doing some good things on YouTube. I mean, he has inspired a lot of people. That's really great. But I think when he rejects criticism like this, he like it comes in assuming that the other person is wrong, and he's not really interested in understanding. He's just pushing these questions, and that may be a good debate tactic for him, but it's not getting at the truth of the matter. And when your elephant is so loud that you can't hear the reason of the other people, when you can't consider their arguments, then that's not going to work. But for most people, when you get people with different opinions together and they share the reasons, and if they don't get it emotionally charged, you can come to more reasonable conclusions. I
don't see how you take the emotion out of it though, when you're so, I mean, I made the argument in previous videos that this is definitely a liberty intuition versus care intuition. And I mean, I
disagree.
Well, how do you disagree?
Well, because I think you can apply both to come to the conclusion that veganism is the right thing to do.
Well, everyone has to use both anyway. It's a balancing act. It really is.
Right, and I don't think they're opposed to one another. Like, you know, I find liberty to be one of the highest values, and so I say to myself, well, are animals capable of having a concept of liberty? Yes, they are. Of course they are. So if I deny them their liberty, am I abusing my liberties? And I think yes, that I would be. So therefore, I don't deny them their liberty.
Do you deny that rational argument is all tacked on after the fact, though, and that really it's the emotion that's driving you, that you're passionate about saving animals' lives?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I can admit that. I'm an emotional tool bag, man. Absolutely. I see like a cute puppy on the side of the road. I'm like, I just go squee. Like I can't, like I'm completely emotional.
And me?
But I don't mind admitting that. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean I'm wrong. That doesn't mean my conclusion's wrong, whether it's motivated or post hoc reasoning. It doesn't mean that my conclusion that animals have a concept of liberty, and because I value liberty, they have a right to their liberty. That, you know, my emotional motivation doesn't mean that conclusion's wrong.
I agree. But it's not wrong for you. Like, that's the difference. Well,
do you value liberty?
My liberty, yeah.
Just your liberty?
Yes.
You don't think liberty in and of itself is a value?
I don't.
The liberty of expression metric tends to be personal.
Yeah.
It tends not to be like other people's liberty. That's more of a care harm thing.
So you don't care if other people are denied their liberty?
Of course I care theoretically, but there's the motivation to actually do something about it is not there for me.
I'm not really asking you to do anything other than not buy bacon next time you go to the grocery store. But
what are you going to do when I go fishing and I hatchet the head off that fish?
Implicitly,
fishing and just stop buying bacon.
Yeah, I'd actually agree with that, and I've agreed with that in the past anyway. And you said I'm asking for too much, if you remember correctly.
I don't need a lot.
You wanted to do some horse trading, I think was your.
I don't need a lot of bacon. I don't need a lot of bacon.
You said last time I talked to you, you said pork was your favorite.
That doesn't mean you eat a lot.
It is. I eat a lot of ham, man. I love ham. Ham is my jam.
Okay,
but do you?
So
how can you take? This is a perfect example. How do you take the emotional aspect out of what people eat, man? It's so. Like, if you saw the vegan gains and the roaming millennial thing, like when roaming millennial was talking about like octopus, she just was like, "Oh, it's so tasty."
I think it was jellyfish.
Okay, but
it was jellyfish. Yeah.
But it's a part. And it's a part of her. It's emotional, man. It's very emotional.
If she eats jellyfish, I have much less concern with that than if she eats octopus, because octopus are cephalopods. Cephalopods tend to be pretty intelligent. Yeah. They have a pretty rich experience. Jellyfish don't really have much of a fully developed nervous system. Their life experience is not the same. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and that might seem arbitrary to some people, which is my general rule is not to eat any animals. But the richer the experience of the life form is, the more value we should give to that life form.
You're using
and
you're using youth
have a very
sociality.
rich life. Yeah, well, and pigs have a very rich life.
It's
and
so
because they have a rich life
so
experience,
unfortunate for them. It's so unfortunate for them that they're
well,
so.
It's only unfortunate for them insofar as you condone the mistreatment of these animals.
Hey, if they tasted like carp, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Well, people eat carp, don't they?
I have no idea. So maybe they do. I guess if they're hungry.
Do you think it's better? Do you think selfishness is a greater virtue than selflessness?
No, and all of morality is. I mean, I have the definition right here. It's psychological mechanisms that work together to suppress or regulate selfishness and make social life possible. But you're asking for too much, and that's why
I don't think so. I don't think asking you to not kill pigs so that you can have your ham is asking too much.
I don't think it's too much because we've kind of provided all the alternatives, so you're just switching one to the other.
I know.
You
just switch in lentils.
I'm asking you to not take an act, and you're saying that you're asking too much of the pig because you're asking for the pig's life. All I'm asking for is to not kill him.
Maybe we can get back to
exactly. Let's not. We got 10 more minutes, so let's. Philo, you have the floor.
All right. Well, my point is that social intuitionism, that's a good model to describe the behavior of some people, but you can't jump from a description of the group's behavior to say that, well, they do this, therefore, they ought to do this, or therefore this is the appropriate behavior. That's
correct.
Just jumping there without any explanation is not useful. So the social intuitionism itself, that's not a non-arbitrary thing to plug into the moral framework. Neither is like social contract or anything like that, because they have arbitrary bounds. Unless you take away the arbitrary bounds, then you can create a framework that's just based on social contract, and it's pretty brutal. I mean,
it arbitrary
children because they can't reciprocate, things like that.
Is arbitrary just like a binary? It's either on or off. I mean, because it seems like there are certain things that could be arbitrary, like fashion, and people are not going to get as upset about as if it's as they will for arbitrarily picking who lives and dies. I mean, it's one.
Well, it is. I mean, it's a binary, but you also have to. When is fashion plugged? People don't usually talk about the morality of fashion.
Oh, are you kidding? Go to a Catholic church sometime, man. They have all kinds of.
Religion has all kinds of arbitrary rules, and that's one of the problems that throwing out arbitrary rules helps resolve. We don't appeal to, say, Christian morality or Islamic morality because those are both arbitrary. Unless you can prove one of those gods exists logically, then maybe it's not arbitrary anymore. But as long as you're just appealing to these scriptures, this is all arbitrary, which one you pick.
But this is the same problem I have with anti-theists, because I don't think pure reason works. I don't think pure reason works.
Well, why don't you think pure reason works?
Because they're more motivated by they're exclusively motivated by emotions. People are motivated to do things because of emotions.
People are motivated to do things because of emotions, but you can change their motivations. You can change their emotional alignments using reason.
Yes, I agree with you there. I definitely agree with you.
So reason has power there. It's not 100% emotion. I mean, people are very emotional. That's true. And we have to find ways to limit that. Just like think about the scientific method and how it has advanced. I mean, we used to just come up with hypothesis and then do some crazy experiment and just verify it because the experimenter was not rigorous in any way. They didn't register their experiments, which is terrible. Like, it could go on how terrible that is. They didn't have peer review, things like this. There's so many problems, and science was not science. Science was just this emotional confirmation. But now we have developed these processes to limit the biases, to limit the emotion that can feed into
disconfirmation. It's all. I mean, we're doing our best. It's not perfect, but
it's not perfect. But the same thing can be said for morality. Look, it's going to be very hard to completely eliminate the emotion from the equation. But in order to try to strive for a universal morality, which I think you agree would be useful, we need to come up with mechanisms to limit those emotional investments. We need to like stop using the emotional loaded language. We need to use formal arguments Like Ask Yourself laid out this formal argument, and it's very easy to demonstrate why that's wrong. You just point right there and say, look, there is a missing premise there. This literally does not follow. No logician would say that this makes sense.
Right.
So it's like mathematics. It's like when you formalize it. I mean, this could be formalized a lot better than this, and it would be way more clear. The language as it is confusing. But if you formalize things, you can take emotion out of it. You can be like, look, 1 + 1 = 2. I don't know what to tell you. You know, people aren't going to come and say, no, it's 4. They're going to be like, oh man, yeah, it is. But, you know, maybe I'm still going to do it, but I just feel bad about it now. It's not necessarily going to change people's behavior right away, but it does provide some impetus there. People want to be good people. At least most people want to be good. And because of that reason, that people want to be good and they generally want to, you know, not feel like hypocrites when they're judging other people as evil while they're doing something that is based on some sort of objective framework, based on a universal framework, also bad.
Isn't being good though sort of measured by what other people are doing, like what other people are?
Absolutely. You can look at it in a relative framework. And that's not saying that morality is relative. That's just saying like our normalization of the scale is relative. It's like you look at temperature. You know, you can use Kelvin, you can use Fahrenheit.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing.
To measure it. We're still talking temperature is objective, but you can say, oh, you know, it's cold or it's hot, you know, based on relative. Like in Alaska, it's probably cold relative to Texas or somewhere. We can say those kinds of things, and those have a lot of value when we're judging people. When we judge people, we have to use relative metrics. The morality is objective, but the metric we're using is relative to society. Like we can say this person is better than most of the people around him. You are doing better. You're in the 90th percentile. You know, something like that. Those are very useful, and we should absolutely be talking about that because that also helps to remove the emotion from the situation. It's not just this binary, like you're an evil person or you're a great person. Like I think you said in another stream that you don't eat very much meat, and we should say, look, that's way better than like what most people are doing. Or if you're a hunter, if you are a fisher, if you go out and you get the meat yourself, and you're not participating in the extremely harmful factory farming, you know, there are magnitudes, orders of magnitude, different harm between these different systems. And if somebody's doing one and not the other, we need to recognize that, and we need to say, look, you're doing better than most people. We shouldn't be calling you like this really shitty person.
This is one of the reasons why I want the vegans to make the best argument that they can, because I feel like where I agree with them is when they're pressing for more, you know, better living arrangements for the animals that are, I mean, I'm completely comfortable with the animals getting slaughtered, but I feel much better about it when they've had a satisfying life. And I mean, I understand.
I mean, you should absolutely become a hunter if you want to eat meat. And
I've hunted. I've hunted before. I've shot at things. I've killed things.
I mean, that not only in environmental terms is probably a little more sustainable. Because I mean, what we're doing right now, you can't grow that much food and feed it to animals, have them burping about this methane. I mean, we have serious issues with climate change, and animal agriculture is a very large contributor, and that affects human beings too. I mean, even if you don't care about animals, that is a serious problem.
Right.
And we need to take the emotional charge out of the situation, right? Like I said before, we need to, when we criticize somebody for eating a burger, we can't be having a joyride in a Hummer at the same time. But if we're talking about environmental causes, we have to recognize that there are a lot of harmful things that all of us do. Yeah. Vegans do harmful things too. I think most vegans recognize that. I think where say vegan gains tends to go wrong in some of his streams is somebody will say like, oh, you have all these monitors, or you're buying cell phones, and he kind of brushes that off like it's not a moral issue, or it's like he doesn't have a choice. But people say the same thing about eating meat. I mean, you can't just arbitrarily say, look, I don't have a choice. Well, maybe you can explain how that is, how those justifications work any better than the justifications for eating meat. Now, I just look at the industry itself and say, look, it's not wrong to buy cellular phones. I mean, people are working in, sweatshops. Sweatshops are the best they have. People want these jobs. People clamor for these jobs. I mean, you are helping people in developing countries by buying stuff from them.
We are helping cows too. So, well,
that is debatable, and that is one of the most challenging arguments for most vegans.
Yeah, totally.
If you say, look, it's better for a cow to live a life than to not live a life.
Free meals every day.
Well, that's if you look at what makes happiness, the being a captive and having no autonomy of your life doesn't do it. I mean, prisoners aren't really happy because they're getting free meals all the time. Just because there are aspects of more suffering in the wild, perhaps, like you might have to be afraid of predators.
They're not the same though. So let's
and the point is, in terms of psychology of happiness, there's a lot of empirical argument to have over whether it's better to raise cows and eat them rather than, just let it return to forest and let wild animals go crazy there.
I'll let someone else have that argument. Chris, do you want to say any closing words before we?
Oh, sorry. I've been reading the chat.
That's okay. That's called razzle dazzle.
Oh yeah. Oh shit! I've done a razzle
when you're reading the chat. So I'm gonna end the stream. I'm gonna end the stream here. Do you want to say anything? You want to plug your channel or whatever? If you want a good dose of shaming, head over to ChrisHines. The link is in the description. He'll shame the shit out of you.
Check out my channel.
I never got to mention it, but the first time I was ever on your channel, Chris, was after my Banana Warrior Princess debate.
Oh really? Okay.
You guys,
what were you watching?
I think I left a comment there. You guys went on and were talking. Oh, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's like. You were. I'm sure it's still on your channel, so it was pretty hilarious.
I'll have to have a look.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
You don't remember you don't remember it was me, but
no. But what I will say is, thanks first for having me on. Sorry if I get quite heated.
No,
I'm pretty passionate.
I'm sorry I lost my cool, man. I'm
it's
normally
cool.
pretty good about that, but
no, it's all good. I mean, to be honest, normally I'm pretty calm. I think, to be honest, one thing has probably got me worked up is I've been actually doing outreach today, showing slaughterhouse footage to the public. So I've seen a lot of not very nice things today. So that probably got me a little bit fired up.
I'm sure they're going to clip the hell out of the stream for me too. They're going to say I'm against homosexuals. I can see it coming. So anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah, I really appreciate letting me come on and everything.
Did you see the graphic I was putting up? The can we talk to you about veganism?
Yeah. I like Tim's one. Where's Tim's one?
Oh, I know. You during the Holocaust and whatnot. Yeah.
No, not that one. He put one in the DMs.
So I didn't see it.
Adam, can I ask if maybe I've moved you a little bit on considering like agnostic approach to a moral universalism in terms of maybe we don't want to endorse these arbitrary premises and that maybe we can find something that we can all agree on based on reason?
We haven't even really had that conversation though.
Well, that's kind of what this has been about. I mean, it's been about the arbitrary premises. It's been about what that means. It's been about human psychology and whether we can use reason. And I think I argue
you haven't moved me at all, to be honest.
I haven't moved you at all.
Yeah. You
said in email that you might consider the possibility that there is a universal moral framework that we should aspire to. I think you said, but that you're not really convinced about it, or something.
As far as there being an objectively best morality that is the best system for human beings to flourish, or whatever you want to call it, I think the problem that I have with that is, what is the metric? And there seems to be like a sprinkle of suffering seems to do us very well. There's this line from The Matrix that I totally love, the first Matrix movie, where they said
that humans rejected it when it was a paradise.
Yeah, exactly. They made the first Matrix was perfect. It was this Matrix that your primitive brains kept wanting to wake up from. And I feel like even if we got paradise, there seems to be just humans want a sprinkle of suffering. We need a sprinkling of suffering.
Well, the argument isn't that we should have no suffering. It's not saying that there's suffering and there's bliss.
All I'm saying is,
because that falls apart too. I mean, you could say, is it good for everybody to just be hooked up to like machines?
I know. The only reason that I'm bringing it up is because in order for you to say there's an objectively best morality, you have to have a measuring stick, and most people want to use the human flourishing or human happiness or human non-suffering as the measuring stick, and I'm just not. I don't know that that's a good measuring stick.
Arbitrary. an arbitrary measuring stick. That's the problem with this.
So we can talk more about this later. Tim, you want to pitch your new avatar? You want to tell people where you got it so that we can all have fun next time?
Yeah, his avatar's amazing. I love it.
My avatar could talk like that.
Well, you got to have character creator.
Oh, okay.
Or Creative Cloud, rather. You got to have Creative Cloud Suite because there's a beta application called Character Animator that I used to make this.
What is that?
And it was.
What are those quotes that keep flying up? Those are Adolf Hitler quotes, right?
Yeah, they're all Adolf Hitler quotes. It's basically about how the Jews are the source of all life's problems.
Someone will clip that out too. Good.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. There's plenty of things that you could clip me out of. And anyway, they're all quotes from famous people throughout history, who, whether they be scientists, poets, famous philosophers, they all agreed in many ways that animals were deserving of a fundamental right to life, at least in some capacity, because they recognized that animals, just like us, have a life. They have a rich experience of life. They know that they are alive. And because of that, their lives have value to them, just as our lives have value to us. And so, some of the people that I have these quotes from are Cesar Chavez, Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, Leonardo da Vinci, Albert Einstein, just really great thinkers throughout history who may not have put forth the best arguments, but nonetheless agreed that the arguments put forth were valid. And so I put those up there. So maybe that people who don't want to listen to me will see one of these names, read one of these quotes, and then reflect upon what that means to them and perhaps help them come to the same conclusions I've come to. All
right. I think I will end the stream here then. Did everyone...
And one last thing, I just want to say thanks for having us on again, and I also want to apologize for instigating that battle royale. That was not my my intent at all.
Big mouth, fucking big mouth. He's going to continue to get shit too, because Ask Yourself. Ask Yourself is listening right now. He's not.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't have any.
I mean, I would if I was him. To be honest, if I thought, I wouldn't come in and call people morons and retards regardless of their arguments.
That stuff doesn't bug me at all. And I do feel like we got some clarity out of the objective morality stuff where we were misunderstanding one another.
It may not bug you, but it certainly bugs the audience, and the audience doesn't want to listen to his arguments. Because I very well agree with him in his arguments in a lot of ways, but I understand when someone hears that, they automatically shut down and don't want to listen. And that's unfortunate, I think, because I do think he's done some great things for the vegan movement.
I'd love to talk about that maybe without Astor. If you could represent his position and we could discuss it.
I don't know.
No, but you know what? I don't think I'm qualified to do that, but I would recommend. Neither. And I don't want to speak for anyone, but there's one guy who I've talked to. I'm going to give him a quick plug here, and he would not have expected me to do this. But there's this one guy who is really, I've learned a lot about ethics from him. He's a German guy by the name of Tierethik und Veganismus, and I think he would probably be pretty adept at representing the argument in a way that it would be very productive for you guys to have a conversation.
That would be great.
My argument is really that morality is not constructed via logic. So, Ask Yourself's logic could be, the logic could be airtight for all I know. I just know that it's not consistent with the way that people actually formulate their morality. So... But I think we're in agreement on that. Go ahead. What last?
All right. I just want to make a quick plug here. If anybody wants to discuss these topics at more length or has any misunderstandings on the issue, definitely check out the Philosophical Vegan Forum. That's a place you can get a lot of answers. And it would be great, Chris, if you would join us there, because I'd really love to chat with you about metaethics.
Yeah, to be honest, I'd really like to learn more about all the logic and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, I'm very much someone who's come from a direct outreach kind of background rather than a philosophical.
It's another perspective. When you run into like skeptics and people who are really logic centered or subjectivists and who think emotion drives drives morality. You can argue for metaethics, and you can make a little more headway than pushing emotion, I think. But I mean, it's tricky either way.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Sounds good.
What was the web address again?
It's philosophicalvegan.com.
All right, check it out, you guys. Take care, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.